Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Kam Mj Show. In our previous episodes, there is a connection with startups, and we got a huge feedback about understanding more about startup community, startup ecosystem, but from the other side. With that in mind, we have a special guest all the way from Cork. Her name is Eshna, and she is all about connecting the dots between startups and startup ecosystem in Ireland. She is program manager at Republic of Work. She is engaged with HBAN, NDRC. She's all about sustainability. She's the founder of Deeptech Fest. She's originally from India, but she had a stopover in Sweden, so we're going to explore on that. So stay tuned. She is traveling all the way from Cork to be on the show. I am looking forward to this conversation and unlocking the secrets around startups. So, hello Eshna.
Hi, Kamal.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for taking the time to travel from Cork. I understand it's a lot of travel to be doing. So
3 hours, but Dublin and Westmeath, kind of similar. So it wasn't that much of a travel, but it's nice to be here.
yeah, no, I truly appreciate. So let's start the show.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you for fueling me with all the chai.
So Ashna, where you want to start?
Where do you want me to start?
Let's start with your childhood. Maybe some stories from your time back in India.
I have grown up in Delhi. I am a South Delhiite, and I think I'm a Delhiite at heart, and nothing will change that no matter where I am. I grew up in Delhi, and I used to travel a lot when we were kids. My dad was in Merchant Navy, so he's retired now. So used to sail a lot to different countries and continents. So there was always, we were always looking forward to the holidays, going to Papa and just sailing across, which was a very unique experience, when you're a kid being on the ship. And I moved out of Delhi when I was 21 to pursue my master's in Sweden, where I did my specialization in resource recovery and sustainable engineering. And that's where the startup bug bit me. But a lot of my time and a lot of my personality is, I think, from Delhi. You would see that. But yeah, there's loads of stories. Where do you want to? Which part of my...
we can talk a bit about Merchant Navy. Because when I was child, Merchant Navy was a big thing. People want to have a career in Merchant Navy because it was a very prestigious thing to do. For our audience, can you talk a bit about Merchant Navy? What is it about?
So Merchant Navy, I think, essentially is when you're transporting goods, but on the ship. This could be fruits, this could be cars, this could be vegetables, oil. There are different kind of ships across. So Merchant Navy specifically deals with that. It's only the private part of it where you're shipping goods across. That's the supply chain, basically.
Okay.
So Papa was a captain. So I have been on car carriers and reefer carriers, but my brother and my mom have sailed a lot more extensively when they were younger and when they did not have me. So I think a lot of my childhood was like holidays. As soon as we would have holidays, we would just go to Papa, join him in South Africa. I don't remember all the journeys now, but yeah, we would sail from South Africa to Argentina, and then we went to Japan and South Korea and like all these places on ship. And as a kid, you're always intrigued, you'd see the cargoes being put on the ship. There'd be these cranes, so you always are curious about the navigation systems and everything. So that exposure was really nice, to see that tech back in the day. The way satellites are communicating and you're able to spot what ship is where and what is it. And I think one of the fun stories is we were traveling from a pirate zone one of the times, and I was, I think, in third standard. The whole ship is kind of prepared. You lock all the doors, all the entry points. No one's allowed to be on the deck. Now, this is, again, from my memory from my childhood. I'm pretty sure there were lots and lots of more protocols. But it's just that the whole rush of being awake and, knowing that everyone's on high alert, every crew member in the ship is on high alert. There are chains on the doors and everything. And I think experiencing that is just out of the world. Like, I don't think I would get to experience that any time in my life, or a lot of people get to experience that. So, and I remember watching Captain Phillips, which is one of the movies which,
Yeah.
you know, they kind of narrated the whole story about this ship that was attacked. And I remember calling Papa and feeling so, you know, overwhelmed, that thank you for, you know, doing what you did to bring us up. It was very heartwarming when you understand like how different professions, it might look like, oh my god, this is so glorious, and like you're out on the ship, what else, like there's just like 22 people on the ship, you must be having fun, but there's just so much out there. You just have to look out for 22 people, making sure that everyone's safe, you know, there's enough food for your travel journey, the storm, everything. So yeah.
Yeah.
And we witnessed so many different things. There's something called water spout when the cloud is taking up water from the sea. We witnessed that as well. So very rare sightings, and I think once in a lifetime memories with me from my childhood.
It's a very different way of spending your childhood holidays.
Yeah.
You know, you usually go to your uncle's or auntie's house
Yeah.
and you spend vacation there, but you being on a cruise, mostly on a deck,
Yeah.
and then going to different countries.
It wasn't a cruise, it was a normal ship. So
Normal
it's
ship,
just,
okay.
you know, what you'd see coming in here as well. So you'd see a normal a carrier ship carrying whatever cargo or fruits or vegetables, those kind of ships. So they're not as fancy as cruises. They just have a mess room and whatever bare necessities. You have your cabins and stuff like that. But different life. But for those 2.5 months when we would have a summer vacation, we would just go on board and just experience I think just the calmness of the sea for 2 weeks sometimes when we're traveling, or 3 weeks when we're traveling.
Do you still feel like going on a cruise holidays, or you had enough of the sea?
I do. I did actually. I did not get to experience so much of the sea because when I have an elder brother, so by the time I was growing up, so he had his boards and everything. So as we were growing up, our holidays became shorter and shorter. But yes, the answer is yes. I would love. I feel I don't know how to swim, but I am definitely a sea baby. I just love the calmness around the sea. And I live across the sea as well, so my house is sea facing.
So you're living in the posh part of the Cork, the cove?
I don't know if it's posh. A lot of people call it rough, but we did move there in during COVID. So, and I think what we enjoyed the most was the fact that it is so calm. It's so close to nature. As soon as you wake up in the morning, there's just fresh breeze. And I think the fact that it's the second largest harbor, natural harbor, so there's always ships coming in, and I think that memory of my childhood is anchored there. So I remember when we moved to the new house, I would just call Papa every day. Papa, see, there's a ship coming in. What vessel is this? Because we would see so many different carriers, and of course, I don't know all of them, what's carrying what. Sometimes I would just be like, what is that? What is that? Do you know this company? So I definitely feel very close to home looking at those ships.
So we're not going to anchor at Cork at the moment.
No.
We're going to anchor back to Delhi, which is not calm, which is a busy city. So let's talk about a bit more of your childhood. You know, you mentioned you have a brother. So who is in your family and how was your upbringing?
I'm very grateful and thankful for everything that we've been given in life. Very nice upbringing, very nice childhood. Very close to my brother. So I have an elder brother. He is a neurosurgeon. And Mama is there, Papa is there. So Mama has been a homemaker. And I think if it wasn't for her, a lot of our life would be incomplete in certain ways, because she's been the anchor, because Papa used to be away. So there's a lot that I learned from her, and now when I'm growing up, I see a lot that I can take from her. Absolutely strong woman. Papa, again, Merchant Navy. And I feel like all four of us are so diverse in what we do. So my brother's a doctor, my mom's homemaker, but she did her master's in Hindi literature. Papa's in Merchant Navy, and I did my bachelor's in chemical engineering. So we all have such diverse outlook on everything that we do. It's like a mix of practicality. There's a mix of EQ and IQ and all the discussions. So it's kind of nice to be brought up in that household. And a lot of my childhood I spent learning dance and music. So my Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, I used to have my dance classes. Tuesdays and Fridays, I used to have my music classes. So I'm classically trained in a dance form called Odyssey. and I learned it for 15 years. And I think I had always had this dance bone and music bone in me. I got trained in classical Hindustani vocal music as well. So Banaras Gharana, I was very lucky to have like amazing gurus throughout my life. And I think again I learned harmonium as well. So all throughout my childhood, I was a very a kid that was very oriented towards art, but I used to love studies as well. I think it was just like the way it was put out was very balanced out. Like, you have everything inside school, but there's a whole different world outside school. And I feel like when you talk about the roots part, I feel like that art form has given me those roots. Like, to as a kid, you would not be so interested in learning about what happened in Ramayana or what happened, around Sri Krishna and all of that. But through these dance forms or through these stories, I kind of learned about Dashavatar and all those things. And I feel that if it wasn't taught to me in that way, maybe I would have never been interested in knowing about it.
Yeah, no, I say it's a very interesting where the learnings of ancient, I call the civilizations and the deities is come in form of the dance, and you do the moves based on the story. It's kind of a storytelling in a dance practice. If I put that around, do you still practice?
I do practice. I think the last time I was in my dance class was just before I moved to Sweden. I kind of went back after my college got done and everything. I was practicing quite a bit and I learned a few new things as well, but I practice what I know. And that is my, Saturday, Sunday, when you're just thinking about this is my time, that's what I do. And I absolutely love it. Like, it just gives you a sense of happiness, and it's important to have those kind of, I would always say people call it hobby, but whatever activities that make you happy, it's very important. And I'm so happy because as a kid I would absolutely, I think when I was in junior school I used to hate it. Like, I used to come back from school and mama was like, come on, let's get ready, let's go. And I would just look at her like, why mama, everyone else is like sleeping, why do I need to go? But when I used to finish my dance class, I used to enjoy so much. I was a senior student when I was in junior school already. So I'd already become a senior student in my dance class when I was in 5th grade. And I used to go in early, teach teach the newer students, then do my practice, learn something new from our seniors, and then come back home. So I think there's a lot that you learn in those environment. Like, and I think that's kind of slowly fading away, which I feel a bit skeptical about, because I feel like there's always this guru shishya parampara and those things that we learned, but it's an art that's fading away.
You mentioned about the Punjabi family and Delhi. How do you relate a Punjabi family and Delhi?
This is where we are going to have conflicts. So actually, both my parents are born and brought up in Delhi. So there's definitely just a Delhi gene that goes through our family. But their families, their families are very Punjabi because they were not from Delhi. And, they kind of left their villages and so on to be in Delhi and to sort of make a living there. But I'd say my nani speaks Punjabi, so we qualify as being Punjabi, and so does my dad. So my parents are very fluent. I think the Delhi Punjabi and Punjab Punjabi is very different. It all just comes down to the accent that we use, the Hindi Punjabi slang, or I think I understand the Punjabi that is there in Punjabi movies and the Punjabi songs, but my mom speaks better Punjabi. Of course, she's fluent.
Just, I'm going to give the context to our audience.
Yeah.
who are not from India or from Punjab, is how every other American has some Irish roots, and when they meet an Irish, they call, oh, I'm also Irish. So I think, people who born and brought up in Delhi have roots from Punjab, they call, I'm also Punjabi as well.
Everyone's a Punjabi who lives in Delhi. And I think there's this new culture in Delhi. Every time I go back home, you have all these new artists and all these Punjabi songs are playing. So everyone has this sudden urge of like relating to being Punjabi, But I'd say, yeah, I am Punjabi, but like, let's just settle at Delhi Punjabi.
Yeah. So on the Punjabi topic, I'm sure you would love Punjabi food.
I'm going to ask you, what's your favorite food?
I actually love everything. I would say probably
What's your go-to, like something that warms up your heart? Like,
samosas are really my favorite.
really? Nice.
I love samosas. I love golgappes.
Okay. You're a chaat person.
Chaat person, yeah, more on the spicy side, not on the sweet side.
Okay. For me, it has to be ghar ka khana. Like I said, when we were growing up, I think mama just made everything at home. So like Fridays and Saturdays were our days out where we could eat whatever we wanted on this planet. But most of the days, whether it was chole bhature, whether it was aloo parathas or kulchas and chana, whatever, kulcha matar, everything was made at home. So I love everything from ghiya, tori, tinda to rajma chawal, kadi chawal, kale chane and rice. Anything that's cooked at home with lot of love, and desi ghee is my go-to food. But any day, I think I would prefer kadi chawal and rajma chawal. I think that's a very Punjabi household staple.
It is. I think it's. We talk about this. It's more the days are being fixed.
Yeah.
Like in my family, and I would say all the extended family, rajma chawal is the Sunday lunch. You know, you show up to any relative's house, you're gonna get rajma chawal no matter what. Yeah. So I think it's. Yeah, that's the food we kind of grow up with.
Yeah.
So let's not turn this into a food blog. So we can move on. How was your studies in Delhi? You studied there, I believe.
I did. I did my bachelor's there from University School of Chemical Technology. It's within the IP University, and I spent 1.5 years in the old Delhi campus, which was in Kashmiri Gate. So that was my first time exploring old Delhi.
Another food outlet.
And probably the time when I actually ate kulcha and matar outside my house. And as well as the tapri wali chai. And then I spent the rest 2.5 years on the new campus, which is now absolutely beautifully developed. But it was nice, I think, to be there. Again, we were a mix. Most of us were day scholars. So it was nice to kind of meet people from so many different, walks of life. And like, when you're in school, I think it's very different, or maybe it's similar here in Ireland as well. Till your high school, you're in the same school if your parents are not in public service jobs, or, if your home is in the city where you're living in, it's very unlikely that you'd be changing schools every now and then. So from childhood till my high school, same set of friends and everything. And I think when you've seen that for like almost 12 years of your life, and you suddenly go to the university where it's all of Delhi, and I don't know what population is now. So it's like a huge different crowd. It's no longer just the people in your area or locality. It's everyone from everywhere. It was nice, and it was fun. I'd say bachelor's is always fun because you're not worried about anything in life. You make friends for life. There are things that you do for the first time in life where you're doing presentations and you're being serious and you're like, all right, this is the career path I want to take. And you learn from your friends because you've not known them all your life. So a lot, I'd say it was very different from school life. I was very focused on studies as well. Scored really well. I knew I wanted to do a master's, so everything that I did during my bachelor's had that orientation because I knew that I wanted to go out for my master's. So there is a whole sense of I need to score well. So everything was kind of oriented, whether the projects that I took up and everything kind of led to, okay, I want to do something in the environmental side of things. So that's how it was aligned. So very studious kid, very, not studious, but yeah, very, very good kid in the class, got good marks and everything, finished projects and everything on time, but had loads and loads of fun.
That's good. You have to have fun along the way.
Yeah, exactly.
So, absolutely. So were you very clear on where you were going as a person, or were you exploring let's try that, it didn't work out, let's try that? Or you had a very clear path when you were
I
a
think I
child?
had a very clear path. So I think this again falls back on like I have had a very good relationship with my parents and my brother, and because I'm the youngest one, I get to take everyone's experience in.
And youngest one are the spoiled one.
Of course. Of course, they're the most spoiled people in the whole house. But I remember I wanted to be a doctor when I was a kid. And then my brother wanted to be an astronaut, but that changed very quickly. So he went on to become a doctor. And when I saw him study, because he's 4 years ahead, when I saw him study so much, like I saw him change within 6 months of leaving home to, being this absolutely serious kid and like studying 18 to 19 hours. Life was absolutely different in a medical college when you're doing MBBS. And I was like, I'm not sure if that's for me. And like immediately I was like, I'd always loved science. So there wasn't ever a question of what am I going to choose in my high school. Like there was always science was going to be the base, but what was the question? And I used to openly chat with Papa. And you know that, when you're in India, you start thinking about what you want in college in your ninth and 10th grade. Like you need to start preparing for your IITs and all of that examinations as soon as you enter ninth grade. So I used to have open discussions with my dad about like what I want to do and stuff. And I always was very passionate about environment, and I knew I wanted to do something in that space. But there weren't many courses, so it just made sense to kind of go with the parent branch, and then you can sort of specialize further. So chemical engineering was one of those fields that popped up, and I could relate with it. And I used to be very good at chemistry and like thermodynamics and all of that stuff. So I was like, yeah, these are subjects that I like, so I will try and get something in that area. And it just flowed for me. Like it was easy. But I remember even during my college time as well, I knew that masters has to be more around environment. So everything then what I did in college was in that direction. I was clear I'm not going to be doing any placements. I wanted to do my masters immediately after I finished off my bachelor's, and I was kind of fixated on that since my first year.
Okay. Now you go back to Delhi.
Yeah.
How is it, the new Delhi now as you grow up in?
Very different. I think when we were kids, it was very empty. Like, I remember my dance class used to be maybe 15 minutes from my house, and the same 15 minutes probably takes 45 minutes to get there. It's changed a lot. A lot has been built. Of course, the pollution levels have gone up ever since. It's a different Delhi. I think it's a Delhi that people love today. People who live there love it. But I think, again, there's been a lot of globalization. There's a lot of, like, what people like today has been put into Delhi as well. The infrastructure is there. Of course, Delhi Metro wasn't a thing when we were kids. It just came when I was in my college, the whole line. But that is beautiful, which I really appreciate. The transportation system in Delhi is amazing. You can go from one point to another part of Delhi or from Gurgaon to Noida just in 45 minutes, and that is amazing. By car, it'll take you like 2 hours. So, absolutely love the metro system there. A lot has changed, but I think it's a constantly evolving thing. Even when, like, if you see Cork 5 or 6 years ago versus Cork now is absolutely different. So,
Yeah. Right. So, Ashna, let's talk about your routes. So, from Delhi, how did you decide to go to Sweden?
yeah. So the Sweden was for my master's, and yeah, that was 2 years of moving out of home. Like I'd never lived outside of Delhi, and Sweden happened. I think since then I've just been living outside of home. So Sweden was a big step in life to go out and explore. And I think the reason why I chose Sweden was that if you see across the world, and I think it just goes back to my love for pursuing something in that field, they are they are ages ahead of what's happening. Like, we're still talking about the concept of circular economy, but they had already implemented circular economy like more than like a decade ago. When I was there, it was already implemented. So I can imagine those models go back even way further. So when I was doing my master's, I already had case studies to read about, like, oh, this is what circular economy means. This is what biorefinery means, which means that there was no escaping. Like, if you want to do anything in that area, Scandinavia is the place because they have systems implemented. And I think when there's something already existing, it's more like, what can we learn from them and just,
Yeah, it's very unusual from somebody from India, especially going for studies to Sweden or I would say Scandinavia. The prime destinations are Canada, England, the English speaking
the English
countries like
speaking, yeah.
Australia. And I can see where you have done your homework and you know exactly what you want to do, regardless of the language barrier. So I have two questions around there. First is the language barrier. How did you overcome that? And second is, how did you manage with the food?
So the first part, my course was in English. Everything was in English. Everything was taught in English. My master thesis, everything was to be submitted in English, and it was an international university. So there were students, international students that they'd been welcoming for a couple of years. So they had those standards in place. So that wasn't a problem, and most of the people actually speak English there. So I would say language would, I don't think language is a barrier. It just feels that, of course, it's almost like, if when we are home, we would talk in our own language because that's what we're comfortable in. But they love they love practicing their English as well. So I remember I did try learning Swedish and I got to sea level, but at some point, because you don't have the same pronunciations, and when you're at the billing counter and you're like hurmanga or like those small words, they automatically switch to English, and they're like, oh, that's 56 kroners, and you're like, okay, I'm never going to practice my Swedish. So language wasn't a barrier. And the second question about food, I kind of learned how to cook, and that's where I actually started cooking myself. So it started off with salads and pastas, and slowly I loved Diwali. And I had a huge friend circle in Sweden, and they were like, what festivals do you have and everything. I was like, this is my first Diwali away from home in all my life. Like, and I was 21, so all my life was 21 years. And they were like, we'll celebrate it. What do you want us to do? And I was like, we make jalebi prasad. I mean, of course, we get it from the store, the jalebis. So I started cooking then. I just took up the whole project of making rajma without pressure cooker. So I made rajma for the first time in my life there. And I remember like how mama cooks at home, with the tomatoes. I was calling her up. I was like, Mama, how many tomatoes? I'm making 1 kilo of rajma. And we're like 25 people. So yeah, that's where my cooking journey started. And we made jalebis from scratch. So very proud of it. And so I think, yeah, like it was a mix of takeaways and salads and pastas and food. But at that age, I wasn't as particular about my food as I am now. Now I want Indian food.
I think regarding the study and the English language you mentioned, I believe there is a myth that Sweden and Nordic countries, or even in Europe where you have German and French, that English is not the first language. It would be hard for somebody who don't speak a local language would be hard to survive. But I think this is the myth which a lot of people have back in India, is that we want to go to country which is English speaking country. And Sweden is a great example, even though their main language is Swedish. I would say every other person speaks fluent English or conversational English.
Yeah, but I think when you're looking at the professional sort of setting, that's where the language becomes more important. So if you're looking for, settling in and integrating into the society, and I think that's a part of any society anywhere, that if you want to really integrate into the society and you want to, work in a place where they predominantly speak their own language, that's where it's important. But I think the beautiful part is when you go there, you can actually start learning the language free of cost. They have different centers. I'm forgetting the name for it, but basically SFE is what they call it, that's where they teach everyone Swedish. Anybody who's moved to Sweden, free of cost. If you're registered within the tax system, you can go and start taking lessons, and you start with very beginner level, like, oh, my name is Eshna, and that kind of those kind of introductory lessons, and it goes up. And the university also has lessons in it. So if you really are looking to stay back, I'd say those are the facilities that you can avail of. It's there around the corner.
And I think it's in every country, even in Ireland. When I was in Maynooth University, they were giving free Gaelic lessons to the staff. And I get to a certain level where I was going, once a week, attending a class, getting my Gaelic up to a certain level. How is your Cork Action coming along now?
I don't know, I don't know. I think I have a very international accent at this point of time. There are days when my accent becomes very heavy, when I'm like really deep into work and something comes up and I'm like, this wasn't meant to be on my calendar. And everyone's like, that was very Indian. I was like, yes. So it's a mix of different accents at this point of time. I would say I don't stick in one lane. When I'm back home, my brother's making fun of my accent all the time. He's like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you talk in normal English? And I'm like, because people won't understand me. So at this point, I think it's a mix of, I don't know, 100 different accents, of having so many different friends across different nationalities. I think I pick up whatever I can.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. Become a global accent, I would say, than one particular accent. So after Sweden, where the story goes?
So the startup bug bit me in Sweden. I just finished off my master's, and I went on to join a company that's based here in Cork. It's a biotech company. And that's how my journey started into the startup ecosystem, through which I was exposed to different ecosystems across the globe and within India as well. So I spent quite some time in Bangalore as well as Hyderabad. And the whole journey to Cork was also part of that startup itself. And to where I am today, experiencing both sides of the startup ecosystem. I think that transition of being onto the ecosystem building side happened in Hyderabad. So I was working with Atal Incubation Center, CCMB. So CCMB is Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology. They are one of the leading research institutes in India. So the government has spun out the initiative at Atal Incubation Center for startups and scale-ups. And I was shortly with the AIC CCMB team. And that's where I saw the transition of like, all right, there is a lot of gap for deep tech startups, and that is a life sciences incubator center. There was a huge gap, and there still is a huge gap for deep tech to be translated from lab to market. So that's where that transition essentially happened for me, to go from, all right, this side of the table to that side. And then opportunities came along the way, and we met in Kildare.
Absolutely.
Through that. And
so I give a quick introduction about what you do.
Yeah.
And I don't think that justifies exactly what you do. So I want to hear from you, what exactly are you doing in multiple areas of startup ecosystem?
So I where do I start? It's the hardest one to explain, and I think everyone finds it very hard to explain it back at home as well. So I lead programs in innovation with Republic of Work. And Republic of Work is an innovation hub that's based out of Cork, and it's a part of Irish Tech Hub Network. And over the last couple of years, Republic of Work, along with different hubs across the country, has gone out to tender for a few startup initiatives that's launched by the government. For example, the HBAN, which is Halo Business Angel Network, or NDRC, National Digital Research, which is the accelerator program of Ireland, or the Sustainability 2050 ecosystem. And I am the Southeast lead for those initiatives on behalf of Republic of Work. So any startup or anybody, any entrepreneur that might have an idea, they can avail talking to me at any point, or they can basically avail anything from mentoring sessions to taking part in different programs under any of our hubs, or under any of these initiatives that we run through. And I essentially, I think the better way to put it is, we get in startups and signpost them as to what supports are available in the ecosystem for them to avail, whether it's angel funding, whether it's VC funding, whether it's grants, and so on. We help them map their journey along, from being an idea state startup to having validated your customers and going beyond.
Is that only limited to people who are in Ireland trying to get to the startup, or is open to anybody in the world?
So the NDRC bit would be open to everyone. We've had a lot of we get requests from everywhere in the world. But HBAN specifically is only for Irish companies, anybody on the island of Ireland, to put it in context.
Okay, great. So it's an opportunity for anybody in the world to get connected to Irish startup ecosystem. Contact you.
Yes,
Great.
absolutely.
Great.
Find me on LinkedIn.
Nice, very good. So outside the startup ecosystem, you are also involved with Deeptech Fest. What is that?
So like I said, there's always been, I think there is a gap between Deeptech scaling from lab to market. And to give more context, Deeptech is anything that's founded in science. So anything that has a foundation in science and it's backed by scientific validations or scientific data is something that's Deeptech, something that's hard to replicate. This could be you building, devices with certain semiconductors and certain circuits and so on. The fact that it's very hard to replicate, and you spend a huge amount of your time R&D into it as a PhD postdoc and so on, and it's patentable. It has a huge IP around it. Is Deeptech, and usually the use cases of it, I think if you were to look at it in the sense that the use case of it is also quite niche, but it can benefit the masses, whether you're talking about human health or you're talking about climate health. It has a huge potential of solving some of the pressing challenges before us. We keep talking about climate tech, sustainability, we care about the environment, landfill, waste, and so on. I think deep tech is the solution for all of that. And I feel the tech that we have today outside of deep tech is kind of the fuel for the engine that deep tech is. So Deep Tech Fest was founded because of the fact that there are a lot of people who are working in this area where they're developing really cool things for the planet, for human health, for planet health, and so on, but they're unable to meet the right points across their journey, whether it's talking to a founder who's probably 10 steps ahead of them or talking to VCs that are probably in the space, because Europe is still, the ecosystem is growing, but still nascent, and Irish ecosystem is still nascent in that sense. A lot of the companies that are coming in this space are coming from the university, so they do not know how to get connected and plugged into the ecosystem. So Deep Tech Fest was founded for that, and we're coming back for the second edition of it. Last year, we focused a lot around the life sciences and industrial biotech and so on. And this year, our focus is on catalyzing a carbon neutral future. So most of our panels, everything's designed around deep tech for sustainability.
Do you want to give some example of some companies who are in deep tech, just for our audience to understand? Oh, here is an example of Coca-Cola. Yeah. Is what you're talking about deep tech. So any of the names you think of which people can resemble, that's exactly the deep tech.
So I think one of the nicest way to relate to deep tech is that it happens in front of us every day. And to give you more specific examples of the companies that have come out in the past couple of years, so Ginkgo Bioworks is such company. So they're working on basically engineering yeast. We have yeast which we use for making beer. Similarly, there's another strand of yeast which can be engineered to mimic the scent of rose, mimic the scent of vanilla, and so on. So they have a biofoundry set out of USA. They're based out of the States, and essentially what we're trying to do is you're trying to mimic factories into these little microscopic cells. So you don't need massive industrial processes when you already have these things in cells in a petri dish, essentially. That's one way of looking at it. Or the other companies, Keel Labs, they're using algae for biofabrication. So you can use shoes that will dissolve into the soil after you're done using it. So there are a lot of companies in that space, if you see, that are doing biomaterials and biofabrics and so on that can be degraded at the end of its cycles. There's closing the loop. If you talk about the Irish companies, there is Hibra Design. They're using decommissioned industrial vehicles and converting them into EV engines. So you can use e-fuels cell to it. Or there is Adaptive. They're using additive manufacturing. and they're developing alloys that can be used into different medtech processes and devices. There's Happy, they're making biodegradable PPE kits. So it's just the fact that if you're able to close the loop, and that is, I think, talking about deep tech for sustainability is all like, how do you use all the material that you're using to produce it and bring it back into the, it either end its life cycle or reuse it to do something else out of it. So yeah, those are some of the examples there.
Oh, that makes sense. Going back to the startup, you talk about the support and Republic of Work. If somebody is listening to this conversation and they are thinking about getting into the startups in either way, either they want to start their own or you want to partner with somebody, from your perspective of you have seen startups every day pretty much in your work life, so what do you look from your perspective, and I'm not asking anything from HBAN and all, what do you as a person look into a startup that this definitely makes sense, this is solving a problem? What are your views on that?
I think for anybody looking to start their own company, and I think there are many definitions of starting your own company. It can be a consultancy and you're very good at it and that's why you're starting it off. But if you're looking to start up in the tech or the deep tech space, I think it's very important to identify what is the problem. And a lot of people get confused in knowing that I have a solution, I've built something very cool, but they're trying to look for a problem after building it. And probably they're passionate about it and that's why they're building it. So the fact that there is a need and you're able to define the need of your product is very important, product or service. So it's very important that if you're thinking about starting up, that there is a clear problem that you immediately can hit on. And if there's no problem, then nobody's going to pay you for your solution. So I think it's very important, no matter how great you are at building and developing something, but if you're not solving, then if you're creating a new category for that matter, it really has to resonate. So it has to be one or the other. If you're creating a new category, it is something that is needed and hasn't been met yet, or there is an absolute problem that is needed by the masses, where you look at cancer cure and therapeutics and so on, or apps that are today existent like Calendly came through because there was a need. So if you're able to quantify what the problem is, what the pain point is, then there's definitely an opportunity for every tech to be existent.
Yeah, there is an analogy which I usually use, and I learned that over time, is the painkiller versus the vitamin pill, right? Do you want to explain that analogy?
Let's just look at the example of Calendly or Zoom for that matter. When they were launched, they didn't land how they are on today's journey, or Instagram or Snapchat and so on. But over a period of time, when COVID hit, that's when Zoom actually became a need. And that was something that no other platform at that point, we had Skype, we had Teams, and maybe everything kind of fell into place and started upgrading their systems then. But Zoom was able to service that market because COVID was something that was absolutely unexpected, and it just found a product market fit right then and there, even though people were using it, but it just became a popular category. And that is what you call a need, that we needed something and it was seamless, that it integrated. Whereas a lot of the things that we have today, I'm just thinking about vitamin and supplements. I think all of us look at vitamins and supplements as something that is just an add-on. It's a good to have, not a need to have. So a lot of the subscriptions that we have are not, YouTube Premium is something that is not I would put that in the vitamin category, even though a lot of us do pay for it. But YouTube is existent and we need it. But YouTube Premium is something that, it can be called a vitamin.
Yeah, absolutely. Something you can't live without. Is your painkiller. If you have a headache, you need to take a painkiller. But I'm short on vitamin D. I can wait for another week.
It's kind of like, vitamins are often seen as a luxury.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of like a luxury product, and it may or may not land. So if there is a need for the luxury product that you're building or service, go for it. But it's very important to sort of realize what to understand what problem are you solving and be able to communicate that. And a lot of people, a lot of founders just fail between that, that I have the solution, people have this problem because I have the problem. But it's important to get the data back. And I think everyone's now fed up of hearing customer validation and discovery. But sadly, I think that goes on for the rest of your life. It doesn't stop at 10, it doesn't stop at 100, it doesn't stop at 1,000, it just goes on forever.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Republic of Work, you are engaged with them for about year,
2 years
2 years
now.
now. Before you were in Merits in Kildare.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a bit about your journey in Merits?
Oh, it was it was Nace versus Cork.
It wasn't a hurling match.
No, it was so Merits is Mid East Region Innovation Think Space, and it is a Kildare County Council and Enterprise Ireland initiative. And it was essentially set out to put an ecosystem, tech ecosystem for the Mid East region of Ireland, which was Kildare, Wicklow, and Meath, because all the cool things were happening in Dublin, and there was an absolute need. And I think this is the head of enterprise, Jackie McNabb, had set this out, and she has stated time and again the kind of companies they come across. It's very tech oriented, and there was an ecosystem that was missing, and that's how Merits was set up. I wasn't involved in the first part of it, but it was. I think it was unique because when I started that out, COVID had just sort of the second wave had just come to an end. So we were thinking of ideas and programs that we can put in place, and we ran quite a few pre-accelerators and scale. We had a lot of scaling companies, which is very different. We had revenue generating companies in our cohort. So I think that makes it very interesting because their needs are very different to any company that is pre-revenue and still in the customer discovery phase. So it was nice to kind of work on those programs and develop that program that was very specific to that circle of entrepreneurs. So yeah, that was a nice sort of alignment, even with the goals of Kildare County Council as well as local enterprise office. We worked very closely with both the teams. So it was lovely to have their input, to know that, because local enterprise office is the first stop shop for a lot of entrepreneurs. So they exactly know what entrepreneurs are looking for. And the Kildare Leo team I think they're exceptional. They've had some of the really good companies come out of there as well. So yeah, I mean, I had a wonderful time being there, being a part of, bringing Merits to in its initial phases. But I sadly had to choose Cork. Not sadly, but
do you call
I
that?
happily chose Cork over Nace, as any Corkonian would say. But yeah, it was a year after I moved back to Cork.
How is the life in Republic of Work?
Amazing. Every day is a new day. I absolutely love it. It's madness, but in a good way. Frank, who's leading Republic of Work, he's a CEO. He's absolutely up for everything and anything. I don't know where he gets all of his energy from, but he is an absolute delight to work with. And there's just so much that we learn from each other. And I've never heard a no from that man's mouth. Like, he's never said no to anything. I come up with the mad idea at 12 o'clock in the night and be like, yes, let's do it. So, and I think that only comes to the fact that we're all very aligned to giving back to the community. And given that we are that point of contact and we do have those initiatives in place, it just is very it's very heartwarming to see the whole community together. Like, we work with a lot of, I think the way Republic Work is set out, it's a co-working and innovation hub. So we do work with a lot of local entrepreneurs as well. So they don't necessarily need to be tech for them to be tech, to be incubated in, or like having a space in Republic of Work. So the kind of people we get inside are like from all parts of, all sorts of segments of all segments of the sector and everything. They could be consultants, they could be tax lawyers, they could be solicitors, they could be anything. They could be a tech company, they could be a scaling company. So it's like we work with a lot of different people, and it's really it's a very different space to be in.
Any upcoming initiatives do you want to talk about?
So we have Deeptech Fest coming on the 7th of March. For anyone who is in Ireland, come along. We are doing a deep dive into sustainability, which is a topic that is, I think, that resonates with all of us. We all love our planet. And some of the topics we are touching on is how do we talk about the green transition, green energy transition? So, we keep talking about all these alternatives. There's biogas, there's hydrogen fuel, there's waste heat, and so on. Like, how does that implementation come into place? What makes sense for Ireland? And I think as citizens, we should be up to date as to what is happening and why something might make sense over another. And we have lots of lightning talks. So we have entrepreneurs that are now in the ecosystem that are either in the scaling or spin out phase. So a lot of these talks are being curated. So they're beautiful companies. They're companies that are, or like they're projects that are working on biorefinery concept, which is closing the loop for the food waste ecosystem as well. And then there is just a general conversation between VCs and founders around the deep tech landscape here. So lots on the agenda, lots of networking. The last event was a hit, and we had to come back for the second edition. So if anyone's there, so 7th March is the date.
And outside Republic of Work and NDRC and HBAN,
Yeah.
what Eshna is up to?
What Eshna is up to? Lots of things. So last year I did a marathon. So this year as well, I'm going to sign up for something on those lines.
Which one
I
you
did
did
the
last?
Cork City Marathon, a half marathon. So running is definitely on the cards. And outside of that, I think I want to be. I love writing, so I want to be definitely more glued into my writing side, and I hope to make some time this year.
Any upcoming book you want to announce on a public domain?
Not book, but I will be writing. If you can follow me on Medium. If you are on Medium, I will be publishing there and across my LinkedIn as well. But there would be posts around, just deep tech and how deep tech can make our lives better.
Okay.
But yeah, that's what I'll be working on most of this year.
So I'm going to connect the roots and the routes here. Very exciting journey from Sweden, startup world, doing a lot in the ecosystem, especially in Ireland, which is, a small country as compared to India. And I have seen your name pretty much everywhere, Eshna. You are an active LinkedIn member, and your posts are all about sustainability and deep tech, and you are keep hounding people on those things. My question is around what values you bring from your roots, which is helping you in your routes.
It's very important to be very grounded and knowing where you come from. And I think it's very nice. It's very important for you to be nice to people no matter what's happening in your life. And that I think I learned from my home, my parents as well. You can be having a bad day, but nobody on the other side should be on the receiving end of it. And as you meet people along the way, it doesn't take more than a second to say thank you to someone if they've been a part of your journey. It doesn't take more than 5 minutes to go out and actually thank someone if they've changed your life. And I think it's very important to always have someone that you can look up to. So if you are on a journey, whether it's a professional development, whether you're an entrepreneur or anybody, I think it's very important to have mentors and good mentors that you can always look up to and have a conversation if everything, about anything and everything. And I think that comes from the fact that I've had so many gurus across different aspects of my life, and I always take that it you can always hear things out and have mentors in your life, and that is a very important aspect of life, like having good mentors and gurus throughout.
So anybody watching this show in India or in Ireland or anywhere in the world, from both worlds' perspective, what message do you want to give it to them?
Spread happiness, good vibes, and see how you can help one another, whether you know them or not. If there's something that you can add value to, just go for it and do it. And always believe in karma. So do your bit and keep doing the good. That's it. Just give world the goodness. I think I don't have anything else to say to it. I feel the more positivity you spread, the better the world becomes. And I think just concentrate on the positive side of the world.
So, Eshna, we are running out of time, but I believe we have a lot to talk. Your journey is so exciting, and I would say you just only started. So, thank you for being on the show, and I hope you enjoy the conversation.
I did. Thank you so much for having me. I think we spoke a lot about food in Delhi, and I think that's a part of India people haven't seen yet. So thank you for having me. I had an absolute, blast here, drinking away all the chai that you've provided me with, keeping me fueled through and through. And thank you so much for having me.
Great. And I will see you hopefully in Cork soon.
Yes, we will see each other in Cork.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.